So I thought this morning we'd start with the berry bushes. These are my ever-bearing raspberries, and they are doing fantastic. They are absolutely loaded with berries. I see a lot of raspberry jam in my future. And this here, this little trellis is actually perennial sweet peas. They were given to me, the seeds were given to me by a friend. Last year they grew all greenery and no flowers. This year they've come back beautifully, but I still haven't seen any. Oh, I think there are some blooms right there. Oh, I can't wait to see them, see what colors they are. And then we have the blackberries. Now the blackberries this year, you can see that there are a lot of brown stalks there, canes there. They were supposed to be second year growth. Now blackberries, these blackberries anyway, are on a 2-year cycle. So the first year it sends out canes, and they are like this one here. They have 5 leaves together. So that's a first year cane, and that does not produce berries. The second year, the cane has 3 leaves. And you can see one down here. This one here. There are 3 leaves, and you can see it has some flowers. That's going to be some blackberries. So only the second year canes flower and produce berries. The tall brown stems should have been my second year canes. They should have been producing berries, but they seem to have died back. So I don't know what happened there. There is a lot of growth though, a lot of first year canes, so maybe next year will be a better season. I'm going to trim back the dead ones and just hope that better luck next year. Let's take a walk over to the new garden. First we will go past our turkeys. This was one of the projects my husband did this year, building this turkey tractor. This is the first year we've ever done turkeys, and so far they're doing fine. They are bronze Orlop turkeys. We had 8, but one was spraddle-legged, and although we tried to fix it, we weren't successful, so that one didn't make it. So we have 7 left. They've been quite amusing. Morning, turkeys. I think I have a treat for them. But the new garden has been doing fantastic. Let's go in. We'll start over here in the 4th bed. You can see the pot on the end. That has the sweet basil. Now, I don't know whether it's because it's in a pot, but there is some damage to the leaves. You can see some of them are a bit brown. Maybe I'm not watering them enough. And there are a few holes, so something's been enjoying it. Beside the basil is the butter crunch lettuce. It is looking fantastic. I've already cut it a couple of times for meals and it's coming back beautifully. I've replanted some in the middle, but I almost think I don't need them because these are just regrowing so quickly and beautifully. There is a volunteer. It must be a cucumber because that's what was on this trellis last year, and I just don't have the heart to kill any plant. The turnips, they're being eaten by some bugs, but they are so hardy they don't seem to care. They're getting big and beautiful. Let's have a look at if they're growing anything. Oh. They're growing so big, in fact, they're shading out the few carrots that came there, but that's okay. Along the edge here are the leeks. The turkeys are squawking in the background there. And the red-winged blackbirds are singing. There's a marigold that looks like it's just about to bloom. The potatoes are coming in the fiber pots here, my new experiment for this year. More leeks along the edge. There's the leeks. And then the parsnip there beside the turnip. And they seem to be growing really well as well. On the trellis here, we have the birdhouse gourds just going crazy. Every day I reweave them. They are growing that fast. And beside them, down here, are the loofah gourds. They're going to catch up, I have no doubt. And then at the front of the trellis are the scarlet runner beans. Which are blooming with that beautiful red-orange color. So that bed is doing great. Second bed, you can see those beautiful scarlet runner beans showing their colors off. More loofahs here in the shade. And then once again, the birdhouse gourds going crazy. Climbing up the trellis. Celery growing here. Seems to be doing fine. And some beets. That marigold looks like it's going to bloom soon too. Under the netting, the cabbage is looking great. And it's nicely protected. I'm going to use the netting every year to help control the cabbage moth. A few other plants that I replanted in the middle of the netting. Some are turnip, some are cabbage. They seem to be doing fine as well. And on the opposite side there in the corner we have a zinnia, almost going to bloom. Some onions I grew from seed and filled in again with more beets. I love pickling the beets when they're little. Now at the front of this bed, I have some yellow marigolds. They go so nicely with the coral red of the runner beans. I have two hot peppers kind of being crowded out by the beets. This one here, I'm excited to see what it is. It has such dark leaves. And the beets are growing beautifully. Bed number 3. Here in the front we have Tidy Treat tomatoes. They are cherry tomatoes. They are also resistant to some of the blight, which has already I've seen some damage on the bigger tomatoes, the heirloom tomatoes. These, I believe, are hybrid, which it's too bad because I really like to save seeds, but they are an amazing producer of cherry tomatoes. We will be overrun from those two plants with more cherry tomatoes than we can eat. Some more beets in the front. I've kind of tucked them in everywhere. But as I like to pickle them when they're small, they won't be shaded out too much as these other plants get bigger, as I think I'll probably have them picked by then. Here are some peppers. So here are the jalapeno peppers, and these 5 are Hungarian hot wax. They are doing great. I think they are starting to get some flowers. They'll be loving this hot weather we've been having. Cool nights though. My plum tomatoes, my sauce tomatoes, looking great. Setting flowers, looking healthy. I've been trimming the bottoms to try and prevent the blight that I'm plagued with here in sort of wetter conditions. And so far, they're doing fine. I just have to stay on top of it. I've been trying to thin them a bit too, as they'll grow pretty close together. But right now they seem fairly happy. And beets in the front here. They'll be lovely when they're ready. Now here's another one of my potato fiber pots. All 4 of them at the back of these rows are growing. This one is doing super. Just have to water them a lot more because of course they're going to dry out in this type of container, but I don't mind doing that. I'm looking forward to bringing them into the cold cellar in their fiber pots without having to empty them or dig them up. I'm going to see how that works this year. Now on this other side we have some Walla Walla onions along the edge. And then on this trellis we have all the cucumbers. So the slicing cucumbers are climbing beautifully. They're looking good so far. Pickling cucumbers, also looking good. And the scarlet runner beans heading up the trellis. And the last bed is kind of a mirror of the one behind me now, with the cucumbers pickling and slicing on the trellis, doing great. Runner beans. Our pool that we put up for this summer, and I'm glad we did. We've had some really hot days. And these are my slicing tomatoes, the 3 different varieties. They're all doing fantastic. Also have had some blight damage on the lower leaves, but I'm trying to really stay on top of it. And so far, they're doing great. They're already at the top of their cages. I might have to put some poles in for these. These are indeterminate. I know cages are not enough support for them. I just didn't have easy access to the poles that I usually use, so I figured I might have to add them later as they outgrow their cages. Bell peppers in the front here, looking great. I can see down in the middle there, if I can catch that it's getting a bloom in there. California Wonder these are. I know peppers, oh there's one under here too. I know, oh yeah, it's got some flowers coming. I know peppers like the heat, but it's amazing that I found they prefer to grow in the shade. The shade of the tomatoes seems to have really suited the peppers that I've grown, so that's why they're on this side of the bed, where the tomatoes will shade them, but they seem quite happy about it. And some more peppers back here along the edge. Another potato in my fiber pot, looking great. I'm gonna have to water them shortly. So these are mixed bell peppers. Zinnia in the corner, which I can't wait till they bloom. And along this side, more Walla Walla onions, which are looking great. This pot has dill. Last year I planted dill up by the house, but the rabbits were just eating it like crazy. So even though pots aren't the greatest, they dry out so quickly, at least here they're protected. And I moved the pot off the ground because I did find some rabbits found their way in somehow. They're chewing holes in the chicken wire fencing. So I put the pot up to see if I could get enough dill to make some dill pickles. And there in the front of this garden you can see that the parsley is growing. So that's great. And the scarlet runner beans going up. So the raised beds in here are really doing well, and I'm so pleased with them. Behind the raised beds, however, not having so much luck. Last year I planted the squash and the pumpkins back here, and they did a fine job battling the weeds. As you can see, the weeds are at the fence trying to get in. But this year, because there were a lot of squash bugs last year, I decided to move them to the old garden and take the sweet corn that I was growing in the old garden and put it here. But it has not worked out very well. You can see that there's only 1 or 2 corn stalks that have made it through. You can see some netting there as I've replanted, and this time put netting over them, because at first I thought it was the rabbits, but now I think it's actually the red-winged blackbirds flying in and digging up the corn. So the corn this year is a bit of a failure. I don't think those will be enough to sort of germinate each other, or pollinate each other, I should say. Down in the corner I threw in a bunch of pumpkin seeds because the weeds were so bad, and I didn't want to try and put corn there. That is going to be pumpkin mania soon. They've sprouted. But yeah, back here has not worked out this year. I'm afraid we're going to have to buy our sweet corn this year. Let's go have a look at the old garden. You can see the old garden behind me is just full of life and growth, so it's doing really well. You can see that the pumpkins in the center aisle here have just taken off, and that's because of the nice warm weather we've had. And over here, the potatoes, they're starting to bloom, which means in a week or so, we'll be able to harvest them. Here in the corner, the peas, the snap peas, are just, they're crawling out of their cages. Let's see if we can see, oh, I can see some blooms on them. We're going to start having some snow peas soon, which is how I pick them. I pick them flat for stir fry. And about down here, my little teepees, my little mystery cucumbers. Oh, they seem to be doing okay. This is the lemon cucumber. Let's see where he is. He's growing. And the English cucumber actually got a bloom on it. They're desperate to survive. And then this one, oh, this one does not look happy. It's got a bloom, but I don't think that was going to make it. Now the spinach that I've let go to seed, these ones bloomed. I think they're doing great. I'm going to get some spinach seeds off them. Really pleased with these potatoes, which as I mentioned in the last video, were actually the leftover potatoes that I harvested from my seed potatoes the year before that I had purchased, Yukon Gold. These were left in a basket in the cold cellar. I'd forgotten about them. They sprouted. So instead of buying more, I planted them. So this is my free potato crop. Pumpkins are great. It's funny. I planted most of these, this one and these two, as small plants. But these right here, I threw in some seeds, and they've almost caught up to them. Isn't that weird? I'm thinking they're going to start vining soon. They're big enough. And along here we have the Dutch onions. They're doing great. Let's dig down and see if we can see how their bulbs are forming. Just starting. The best thing I did in this garden was put down these grass clippings, because even with them you can see there are weeds popping up, but nothing like last year. Last year you couldn't even walk in here for weeds, so it's really helping control them. And along the edge here we have our squash, zucchini. Oh, and this little cucumber was a leftover. Blooming. So here we have the yellow squash, and it has the male blossoms already coming up here. So the first blossoms that squash plants tend to put out are the male flowers, and you can see it has a long thin stalk on it, not the bulb that will turn into the squash. So the male flowers come first, and then the plant will start putting out the female flowers. Looks like we might get some yellow zucchini. And then next we have the Italian striped zucchini. It is also putting out a male flower and looking nice and healthy. Can't remember whether I planted two or whether this is a green zucchini. Well, we'll have to wait to find out, but it's got multiple blooms down in here. Look at that. Probably also already some female ones coming. These back here I believe are the green zucchini, and look at that. We have our first zucchini coming. That's very exciting. This might also be the Italian one, though. It kind of looks... The Italian ones are kind of ridged, so it kind of has that look on it, not the smooth green. We'll have to see. These last couple are the green zucchini, sort of the regular zucchini. And they're also sending up blooms. Here are my orphan tomatoes. I always have tomato plants left over. I always plant too many. I don't even remember which are which kind back here. We'll find out when they set fruit. And then the sunflowers. Looking great this year. It was definitely a good idea to plant plants instead of the seeds, because again I lose a lot of the seeds to birds and voles and rabbits. Now I did plant some watermelon, but they are just not doing anything spectacular to speak of. This is one of them here. I think actually that has had like a vine borer. I don't think that one will make it. There's a couple more over here. Let's see how they're doing. Well, this one's doing somewhat better. Still not fantastic though. Oh well, just a bit of fun. We might not get any watermelon. Couple more orphan tomato plants here. I stick them in everywhere. I just can't bear to let them die. And then more pumpkins, which are also getting their male flowers. So all in all, except for the watermelons, this garden is really doing well, and I'm very excited. So that's it for the second garden tour. Everything's looking good with the exception of a couple of things, which is normal for any garden. Usually you have something doing really well one year and not the next. So far I'm really looking forward to starting to eat some fresh vegetables from our garden. Until next time, bye for now.